8 a.m., the 11th of June. We're glad you're watching Morning Express. We have a few more minutes on the newsroom this morning. And earlier, we were talking about security, and more so the show we saw on Madaraka Day with the president and his armored vehicle, and there was quite a lot of bashing, shall I say, and ugly it was described. Amaina Mwangi says, so is the USA very unsafe? Because Obama is always in the bulletproof armored vehicles or chopper, and also there's always that glass, you know, you don't see it much, but hey, it's there.
But the difference is that in the US, it's like that, that's the standard. It's the standard during times of peace or times of war. You see, that's the standard.
So maybe they're setting a new standard in light of...
Plus, you look at Obama's cars, you can't tell that they have all those things you're saying.
So the problem is that Kenyans can tell.
The perception that it is an impression. I mean, what are you telling me about bulletproof? Even Maina Njenga has one. So that's not an issue. I think what we are talking about is when someone looks at it, what do they think? I think that is the issue. There are very many armored vehicles. There are very many armored vehicles around this town, but sometimes you can't even tell. I mean, you don't get that feeling like, wow, that car is really...
So the advice going to the people who are in charge of his security is get it, but come up.
He needs to be discreet. That's why you don't see some people standing behind Obama with, you know, those things that we like in these parts of the world. Yeah, and yet that guy is more protected than a lot of people that we see surrounded by these uniformed stiff people.
Okay, there's another question that's coming in from Gadara, and he says that the Kenyan media continues to ignore what is happening at Kasarani and to cheer Usalama Watch.
Then it still boils down to the same strategists within government. Why haven't they spoken about these issues?
Why is the media not questioning? That is his problem. Why are we also quiet? Why are we letting them? I
think from where I sit, I think he has a point. I mean, I think we all bought the line that fine, now it's been turned into a police station, gazetted as one, and therefore it is fine. I think there are many questions that we need to raise as the media about whatever happened. I mean, even a police station has a certain period of time within which they have to take you to maybe court or whatever it is. We don't know who is still there, how many people are there, for what period of time. So perhaps, yeah, maybe good story idea.
Good story idea. We're going to implement
I think didn't the government stop like block human rights organizations and stuff from visiting the place? And I think that's what I was...
The point is, I think we don't know.
We don't know. That's it's unclear.
I think that's probably one... I mean, that's also, I think, one of the things that probably has prevented the media from maybe covering it. But, okay, fine, I want to agree with Gadara to some extent. Yes, there's not been any more stories coming out of it, but I want to disagree with him that actually you don't have to be bashing the media all the time, you know?
Well, the media is bashing other people today.
with our rights.
Which came up, I mean, when bombs blow everywhere, how do you now go to concentrate on Kasarani? You have to deal with all these other issues.
Well, let's have it also on a very not too heavy day. It shall run as a story, hopefully. Somebody is saying the Beast is a mean-looking machine with G8 features, Ger or Doc. The Land Cruiser is downright super ugly. I guess a lot of people really are interested and excited about that whole
quite a sense of taste in this country.
People like good stuff, of course.
And somebody asking, where was the media in terms of the scrutiny? Gadara is really on point today with his questions. Safaricom limited security deal and Ageyo circumventing procurement rules again. We spoke to the CEO.
We raised a lot of questions, and I think that perhaps the members of parliament were just following in a trail. We raised a lot of questions about that deal, spoke to even the cabinet secretary himself, and I think that is the point at which someone cannot afford to be generous. I think there are sections of media that followed it up.
We actually, in the Standard, I remember our business team raised these issues and they captured the stuff. And I think from there, the members of parliament who were charged with that committee picked it up. And that's why you saw the questionings in terms of what surrounds the entire deal. So I think in terms of raising the alert, that we did. we cannot be faulted on that.
We cannot be faulted on that. So then we'll watch the story as it continues to develop. But the budget, that's happening tomorrow. It's also a football, big day, World Cup. Are you guys football people? I know you're not.
It's a terrible coincidence, I think.
Terrible coincidence.
Yeah, tomorrow will be business and football, sporty at the same time.
Yeah, actually the opening ceremony, I think, is around 9 p.m. So
by that time, the budget, we will have known how many,
I have a news bulletin to run, you see.
At 9.
But on the budget,
it will be some stress and then some relief on the other side.
Yeah.
Because we are running a budget of 1.8 trillion shillings.
Right.
We would really want to know.
Which we don't have.
The government is going to
Why
get
don't you
this
just
money.
look east and the money will come? Just look east,
The money, there's no free lunch from the east.
Yeah.
And the money will come and then it will go back.
We've been covering that here on KTN, the agenda on just, how this is going to be financed, which are big, critical, crucial questions to ask at this time. Because for ordinary Mwananchi, bottom line for them is food on the table. But other things are all going haywire. And what is worrying, and we'll be talking about that in the next few moments, is healthcare and what, is likely to be a very little allocation to that as well.
Because the main key issues that you need to deal with is health, security, and then education. Those are the major 3 issues that this government must address. The other issues will just fall into place. If your children are healthy, they can go can get quality education, and they are secure. What else would you look for in this country? There is absolutely nothing else. But when you remove all this money and you want to take them elsewhere into shadowy deals and stuff like that, where you cannot be able to account for them, then there is a problem. And how do you even raise the money to allocate to these sectors? And how do you also follow up in terms of whether they're going to spend the same amount of money for the intended purposes? So these are the questions we will need to be raising.
Yeah, I think for me, as someone who can't claim to understand the budget in the manner that some people have heard in town talk about it too, I think the striking thing that I have seen in that is what they call the absorption rate, where certain monies are allocated for certain projects, and would you believe it's a whole year ends and it hasn't been spent on that, so it has to be either reallocated or taken back or whatever. Now that I can understand, because it is all tied down in red tape and bureaucracy and all of those things. So you ask yourself, why is it that the absorption rate on the expenditure side is 90%? Like, if we meant to spend this money on recurrent expenditure, all of these things, it is very easy. But when it comes to development, that you're supposed to build something somewhere, you're supposed to build a school or a hospital or whatever, just this whole process in government holds that money for a whole year and then it is taken back. The other thing I noticed is the laptop thing. They didn't do much last year, and the same amount, 17 billion, allocated this year for the same project. I hope it can finally.
So now
by saying they didn't do much, it means they did something. Is that what you're saying?
They tried tendering and everything, Olive and everything. Come on, they did something and talked a lot about it as well.
So that means now that more money has been allocated to the laptop project.
Yes.
But where they're allocating money when it's still an issue? Is it still in court trying to figure out?
It's called planning, Sophia. You can't just
wait.
You can't just wait until the middle of next year and say, oh yeah, now we have a contract, then you don't have the money. So I think
but don't they still have money from the other?
I think it is a commitment to that project that I am not too sure is still there, or whether it needs to be there in the first place. There have been quite some discussions around it that I thought maybe the government would have stopped and said, well, this probably is not a very good idea, it's not priority right now. But having seen the allocation made to it, it seems there's still quite some commitment to it, and we'll really have to see how that goes. I personally think it's going to be very controversial again at some point.
At a time when we have Raila and some leaders calling for the troops to be withdrawn from Somalia, and about 6 billion shillings, a lot of money that's been spent to keep them there. So again, priorities the government has maintained, that's going to continue to happen.
I think with the issue of Somalia, I will disagree with Raila, because already the troops we're not spending as, okay, we could be having a budget, but it's not as much as when we went into Somalia. Because if you recall, they've already been taken up with AMISOM. So they are under the African team that is in Somalia, together with the other troops in Burundi, Ethiopia, Uganda, who are there. So they're part of that team. So maybe if there's discussion on how to get out, that's what we need to discuss on what strategy we'll use to get them out. But as far as in terms of spending, I don't think the budget is as huge as when we went.
But you don't even
Somalia.
know what the budget was. I think there's this mystery around how much we spend. I think there needs to be a certain level of transparency as well, so that you're saying, yeah, this is what we used to spend, this is what we are spending now. I know there are certain expenditures on the security front that in their very nature strategic, and therefore you can't talk too much about them. But I think this whole shroud of mystery around security contracts and deals and everything in this country, if you look at Anglo leasing, all the 18 are security related. If you look at the Safaricom deal, there's controversy around it, security related. Everything that touches on security in this country eventually becomes controversial because people are never forthright about it. Even a Safaricom deal, we didn't quite know about it. Just woke up one day and say, oh yeah, there's this deal, 15 billion, 12 billion, 13, 14, how many billions is that thing actually?
Depends on who is
so at the end of the day, I think there ought to be a strategic way of communicating. This is what we are doing, so that people don't raise unnecessary questions about things that might actually be quite good for the country.
I think they need to demystify this security thing, because nowadays you ask a question and then immediately they hide behind security. Immediately they drop the word security. That is a security issue we cannot discuss. That's a security issue we cannot discuss. And then 2 or 3 days later, you find Mr. Kenyatta running a series of ads, you know, telling you about the same thing, security. If we can't discuss it, why all these ads all over the place in the first place?
It can be discussed. I think Parliament.
I mean, they always keep on hiding behind security. You know, this is a security issue, cannot be discussed, a security issue. And actually, that's why there's so many billions. I mean, you don't know whether it's Airtel, you, or whoever it is who is going to be given another, some more billions to supply the so many cameras or whatever it is. So yeah. I think they need to stop hiding behind that. Yeah.
So you see, I think it goes with precedence. Historically, here, the issue of security was always being deemed as something that is mysterious. And when you, even just right from independence, if you talked about anything to do with security, you were not supposed even to mention anything to do with that. And that's why most of the time it was even placed under the office of the president, where it was shrouded with a lot of mystery. And it has been going on like that until I think when we had this new constitution, which opened its doors in terms of ensuring that people can be able to be told what allocations are taken to the security, because in fact a lot of money, a lot of deals, a lot of stuff that were being cut, and the corruptions cartels have always been dominant within the security docket. That's where money is spent and you're not supposed to be accountable for. But I think with the new dispensation, Parliament has a right and is being able to even, that's why we can be able to hear this issue of like on the Safaricom deal and even the Anglo leasing coming in, because now doors are open so that they can be able to be discussed and people told, and report lays in Parliament for people to understand all these kind of things. So I think we are getting somewhere.
Okay, gentlemen, our time is up. For World Cup, are you supporting any team?
There's only one. I mean, apart from an African team, I think the best team is Spain.
Spain?
Yeah.
Joe, do you know
supporting the game?
Oh, yeah. The game. You'll be cheering
the
on.
Beautiful game.
Beautiful game. Martin?
Apparently, actually, I was mostly supporting Spain, the defending champions. But the best team should be the one which should win. I mean, we need to enjoy the game of football the way it comes. But the problem is the timings are crazy.
Insane.
Yeah, 4 a.m. How do you start watching a game?
No, in the meantime, as you wait for the football,
I have a recommendation. Come to work at 4.
Yeah. As you wait for the football matches, I think there'll be some cricket matches in between. You can watch cricket as you wait for the football matches.
Such a cricket fan. All right, thank you very much for joining us today. Martin, Mutua, Ageyo, Clay, Muganda. Let the games begin and let this show and conversation come to an end.
Dialogue.